we were supposed to see video of this, but they did not feed it live, and then there was a signal breakup. So that's not surprising. We've had that issue along the U.S.-Mexico border, that can be signal issues. So that hence the delay there. But we should be getting video at some point shortly of his time there along the border wall. But it is interesting, again, to point out that according to the pool and all reports, they're saying that there were no visible migrants from where he was along the U.S.-Mexico border, which is then, of course, going to trigger more questions, I would imagine, about the quote-unquote cleanup of the area, whether it be the Greyhound bus station downtown, or maybe even on the other side of the border, ensuring that the banks of the Rio there don't have any of those impromptu encampments that we've seen as people wait in Mexico to come into El Paso.
I do know the city hasn't changed anything. They didn't do any upgrade in cleanup of any type.
Right.
They do. It was they've done. I think they do it 3 times a day or something. It's their normal operating. So there was nothing special done by the city prior to the president's visit.
Right. And that's important to clarify, because that drives into the political talking
no, there was nothing. There was nothing standard operating procedure for the city.
What we're seeing right now, what we were seeing earlier, rather, the live look inside the Migrant Services Center, this goes back to the theme of the visit, which is the humanitarian approach to handling the migrant crisis. You're seeing how the shelters in El Paso, the food bank in El Paso, and the Salvation Army are stepping up to provide needed resources to migrants who are coming in, many seeking asylum, some, as Dylan reported, some are not documented. They have made their way across the border illegally and have not sought documentation to be in the United States. So, but either way, the people who are going to the Migrant Services Center, they're talking about how they're providing food and resources to get the people who are seeking asylum to the parts of the country where they do presumably have family and other sources of help and revenue where they can get to where they need to go as they wait to be processed into the United States.
He was also asked about the situation in Brazil. That was part of the pool feed,
right.
And they're talking about supporters of the far right, former president invading the country's Congress. So it's even when you're on the border talking about migration, you're getting questions about all the other happenings of the world and what's going on thousands of miles away in Brazil. Of course, I mean, that could ultimately drive people to want to come to the U.S. And eventually we could be seeing a flow of Brazilians.
I understand we have seen a significant flow.
I know in the past we've reported on that. So it's not connected, but it is connected at the same time. But it speaks to, when you're the president of the United States, you get asked a lot of questions about a lot of different things on a daily basis, every minute of every day. And even when you're here on the ground talking about migration, you're still getting questions about other things that are happening.
Right, and it goes to your point, like you were saying, it could eventually affect El Paso. We do have Rosemary Montañez, who has been at the Migrant Services Center all day practically. And Rosemary, what can you tell us about what you're seeing? And we were getting a glimpse inside. I know you're outside, but tell us what it's been like and what you've been able to witness.
I mean, everything has kind of been really quick, Stephanie and Eric. Now it looks like they're wrapping things up. A lot of people that were inside have now gone outside. A lot of these vehicles are kind of leaving the area. But really, I mean, it looks like they closed things up. As you mentioned, we're not able to see, what's happening inside, but it looks like things have wrapped up for the moment. Once again, let's talk a little bit about what President Biden came to. He came to this migrant processing center of the county that they set up back in September. Up to 600 migrants were processed here daily. And really, the migrants who came to this center were those who had money. They had sponsors, they had a place to go. A lot of the ones that I talked to back in September and October said that they were treated fairly well at this center. And this is exactly where President Joe Biden came here today to meet with those officials, meeting here at a place where migrants have been going in and out. But once again, it looks like everything has been wrapped up for the day. And now, it looks like they're kind of leaving the area. That helicopter is still circling the area above us. But still, there's still lots of vehicles on this scene. But for now, it looks like it's kind of, over here for the day. It's ended here. I'll send it back to you guys.
Okay, Rosemary, thank you. And again, this is the final scheduled stop for President Joe Biden in his first visit to El Paso since he took office January 20th of 2021. That was already well into the surge of migrants that we were seeing coming into the United States, mainly through El Paso. We did, of course, see the surge at Eagle Pass and McAllen and other parts of Texas. But El Paso, in this rotation since March of 2019, as we have seen, or May of 2019, we have seen an increased flow. This is new video, or rather, this is, I'm sorry, I know, this is recorded. This is video of Joe Biden making that unannounced stop, speaking with, as you were calling them, the green suits, speaking with agents, Border Patrol agents, about what they're seeing every day as people are attempting entry into the United States across or through the ports, between the ports of entry, through the border wall, above, over the border wall. Again, this is presumably by the Santa Fe Bridge and by executive, because we understand that the motorcade and Secret Service and other law enforcement had blocked Loop 375 all the way to executive. You can see the mountain. It looks like Crystal Ray in the background. Yeah. So they were blocking off traffic all the way to executive, and this looks like it is part of the border right there.
Oh, there you get the sense. Yep.
You can get a better sense of where we are, but this looks like it's by Sunland Park, and he was talking with agents. Again, an unannounced stop along the border wall. Talking with the people who are on the ground every day, seeing people coming through the port or through the wall, through the border. Either they're requesting asylum or they're just attempting entry illegally into the United States. These are the people who are seeing it firsthand every single day. And he spoke with them, from what we're getting from the pool, for about 27 minutes. So that's probably the longest stop, other than the Bridge of the Americas that he made, even longer than the Migrant Services Center, speaking with agents. And it looks like and you can see it, he's alone. He doesn't have any representatives, no one from Secret Service. He is talking one-on-one with a handful of agents about what they're seeing. And so we hope to get a better idea of what was said in the hours past this moment, what was discussed and what they were able to impress upon him, the needs that we're seeing here in El Paso.
But I imagine, Mayor Margot, this is what, from the right, you'll hear is the photo op. This is President Biden along the border wall talking to agents. Ultimately, what it comes down to is what happens after this visit. What substantive actions come of this visit? I would imagine that is, and there's DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas in the foreground there, but that ultimately is at the core of what we're talking about this afternoon, Mayor Margot.
Well, I won't be so hardcore on the other side. I think this is good. The question I would have is, what did the agents tell him? How candid were they? Did they express their needs? Did they talk about the situation, the number that they have to encounter, the fact that they're spending more time on processing than they are with guarding the border? Ad infinitum, a number of things.
And it is now 3:53. Again, this is not live. This was video from earlier when he did make that unannounced stop at the border wall. And you can see the rest of the delegation that has been following him is there, joining him. You can see UTEP off in the background there.
Old Fort Bliss.
Okay, and that explains why Loop 370, Border West Expressway, was blocked off the way it was, and we were seeing the lack of traffic there. So this is the pool camera feed from earlier when the signal was breaking up and they were trying to feed some of this video back. So this was for 27 minutes, a little bit earlier, and now the president is finishing up his visit at the El Paso County Migrant Processing Center. He was supposed to take off and leave El Paso at 3:45, 9 minutes ago. So he arrived about 15 minutes, a little more than 15 minutes early, 20 minutes early, and it looks like he will be departing at least several minutes late. So the total visit time here in El Paso, more than 3 hours. But that is what a lot of people have been clamoring for, whether it be Democrats, Republicans, you name it. Visit the border. There it is on your screen here in El Paso, the President of the United States visiting the border. And you can see some other law enforcement on the other side of the fence there. On the Juarez side, that might still be on this side of the Rio, though, so that might be, it's a little difficult to make out exactly who that is, but that might be other Secret Service or Border Patrol agents in the background there. But this is what people have been asking for, and ultimately the pool tells us that they were at such a distance that they could not make out what was being discussed here, to Mayor Margot's point about what was he told? What did agents tell him? How much did they tell him in terms of the severity and the reality of what is going on and the significance of what is going on? But the pool did note that they were at such a distance, they could only explain that he was wearing the aviators, no tie, the jacket. He could explain what he looked like and who he was speaking with, but they could not discern what he was actually saying in the conversations that were being had. So the people to ask are Border Patrol agents. El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser there with his back to us in this shot right here. DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Those are the people who are in the know of what was discussed in this conversation happening right here just within the last hour or so as the president made that unannounced stop to the border wall.
Yeah, we saw 5 agents speaking alone with President Biden. And what we could see in that video was, and you could see him with his arm around someone here, but
Henry Cuellar, they actually noted that moment too, that he put his arm around him.
oh, okay. So yes, Henry Cuellar from Laredo, who is a moderate Democrat, who is someone who is often critical of policies that affect his area of the border. But again, that was a moment, a very interesting moment to see the president without any Secret Service agents, no one nearby from his administration. He was alone with 5 Border Patrol agents. You know, and he was listening. He was doing the listening. They were speaking, and so you just have to wonder, who were the agents? How were they selected? What did they tell him? And how much were they able to get across to him the situation that they are witnessing every single day, and that has, as we've been showing you every day in our reporting, but especially Eric, you're standing in front of it today, the sheer number of migrant encounters that the El Paso sector agents are seeing year to date. It's already over, in just the El Paso sector alone, it's over like 100,000 or 160,000, and that's a quarter of what agents across the U.S.-Mexico border have seen just year to date. So you're talking about since October. So again, just going back to the point of what is it that they were able to tell him, and how much of that will resonate with the president as he is halfway through his term.
And it was moments after this when the press pool was able to shout out a couple of questions and got a few responses, and that was this was the moment that they were saying that there were no migrants visible. So now just some shrubs and trees, and this kind of makes sense along the west side there near the UTEP area, that you don't have as many of those encampments that we saw compared to what we saw downtown in that area. So they said that that was mentioned, and then this is where they were also shouting out the question if he had read the letter yet from Governor Greg Abbott. And I'm not sure if we'll have video of the moment here coming up as this plays out when he gets closer to the press. But the moment when he pulls the letter out from inside his jacket and holds it up, but did acknowledge that he said he had not read it yet at this time. And obviously it's been a very jam-packed schedule over the last 3.5 hours now. I mean, we're approaching 4 o'clock here, and Air Force One is still on the ground at El Paso International Airport. It was scheduled to take off at 3:45. He does not head back to Washington after this. He heads to Mexico City for a summit on this very topic with the Mexican president as well as the Prime Minister of Canada, with 3 nations coming together, leaders coming together to discuss what's happening. So it'll be interesting to see not only what the agents in this moment, these Border Patrol agents, told President Biden, and what CBP officers told him, and what Bishop Mark Seitz told him, and what El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser, County Judge Ricardo Salmonero, he's going to be taking all of this information as part of what he then brings, I would imagine, to the summit in Mexico City. So think about that. Well, the discussions that are happening here in El Paso just hours ahead of a summit amongst 3 leaders of 3 different nations, and the importance of the moment right now that El Paso is playing in not just the national landscape, but the global landscape.
And again, this is a recorded video. This is not live. This was, like you mentioned, it was about 30 minutes ago. He had left the processing center and made his way down to the border wall to see the border for himself. And it's a, you know, as a part of the border, it is a very unique look, because you can get a look at New Mexico, you can get a look at Mexico, and you can look at Texas. So it is if anything, it is a very interesting part of the border, a unique aspect that
And that-
you don't always get.
And there's another one-on-one moment with El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser. So that is something we'll certainly have to ask him about, what was being discussed in these moments. Obviously, there's some laughter here, so it's, they're talking about serious stuff, but they're also having some moments here. I'm not sure if the audio will pick up here at some point and when the press pool shouts out their questions, but I think we kind of already know what the Q&A back and forth is based off of the press pool reports that we've gotten. But I'm kind of waiting to see if we have that moment where he pulls out the letter from Governor Greg Abbott.
Again, going back to the pool report, he told them the government would provide every resource needed
Here's
at the
that
border.
moment. There's the letter.
Okay, guys, we're rolling. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much, press. Thank you, right there. Guys, watch your mic. Watch your mic.
So, of course, very limited, but we did see that moment where he pulled out the letter from Governor Greg Abbott from his jacket pocket. And the question was, have you read it yet? And the answer, according to the press pool from President Biden, was no.
And of course, Abbott told our reporter Saul Saenz earlier that he had not gotten a call from President Biden on how to address the crisis. But